Alright, I'm gonna start this video off by apologizing for how jank it is. One of my lights is out, and hopefully that will not affect the green screen, blue screen too much, but you know, we'll ultimately just have to see. Also, Pestily was not kind enough to leave me a nice tier list template to yoink this time around, so I just had to go onto a random tier list maker website and download a still image. So we're just gonna go up the rows because I think that's the best way we can do this right now. And understand, this is a 100% very well researched and completely serious video, so you should take it as such, trust me. We're gonna start off in F tier. I feel like everyone can agree that the Jetta, the Cold Pack, and the firefighter helmet, whatever the hell it's called, yeah, they're pretty bad. If you hold a piece of tissue paper in front of your face, I guarantee you'll have the same protective capabilities, and you'll actually be able to hear things. So yeah, these things are absolutely terrible. Throw them on the floor, not even worth selling to Ragman. I'm pretty sure toilet paper sells better to him because, once again, that would offer better protection. Despite the fact that these things are made out of paper mache, they are not my least favorite helmets in the game. No. That dishonor goes to the Untar helmet. Much like the organization that employs this piece of garbage, the Untar helmet doesn't do jack diddly. Not only are its protective capabilities completely not at all worth its price, considering there are better helmets available for cheaper, this thing is a beacon saying to every scav and PMC on the map, this is where my head is. Make sure that this is the thing that you specifically shoot, because that's gonna kill me the quickest. And I'm gonna be honest, I get head-eyesed and head-top-of-headed enough. I don't need to give them any help. So yeah, this thing is an absolute piece of garbage, and I feel like the only reason it is ever seen is because of that dumb quest that Peacekeeper sends you on, where you have to murder the entire populace of, well, Tarkov. Just kill every scav, which is, you know, I mean, at least the UN is actually trying to do something that time around, am I right? Instead of just idly standing by on the road. Moving on up to E tier, we have the, we're gonna start off with the Sphera diaper helmet. Yeah, this thing is not protecting you from anything. The most practical usage of this thing is that it functions as a diaper. So basically, when a bullet passes through your skull and out the other side of the helmet, because it's not gonna block anything, it catches all your gray matter from flying out that side and making an absolutely huge mess on the other side. So, I mean, it functions as a diaper, but as a helmet, nah. The only good thing that I can ever think of for this is if you get a bunch of idiots to join you in like camping gate 3 or something and you all equip melee, and then you all just melee rush the poor guy that's just trying to extract. And honestly, with VoIP now added to Tarkov, I very much would like to do that eventually. Yeah, that would be fun, but otherwise this thing is quite literally a diaper. Next is the Vulcan. Yeah, this is the epitome of overpriced garbage in the game because, yeah, the helmet is tier 6, but the problem you're going to run into is that the face shield is tier 4, and considering the fact that everything seems to have some form of magnetic attraction towards my eyeballs, that doesn't help me that much. And if I'm shelling out, I looked at it on the wiki, the only trade I saw that you're able to actually get this thing, it's not available on the flea market. So the only way to actually get this thing is, I think, a barter trade to Ragman at loyalty level 4, which is quite literally a graphics card and a RAM. No, that is not at all. That's like roughly, depending, late wipe, that's 600,000 rubles per each, and mid wipe, that's over 1 million each. That's literally just the most worthless trade I can possibly think of. And the helmet you get from it isn't even worth it, because your face protection's pretty sad, and the helmet, well, 90% of the time you're getting shot in the face. You get shot where you look. So maybe you'll get saved from a scav or something off to the side, but by the time you're using these things reliably, everyone's already got M995 and M61 packed out the wazoo in their guns, so it really doesn't save you from anything. It's just another money sink, and one that is not even remotely worth it because it doesn't do anything and it's not at all an attractive helmet. And now the lzsh. There are some people that love this helmet and I have no understanding why. It is literally a direct downgrade from the SSH-68 and the 6B-47 because it has the same exact protection and ballistic capability. You can be niche if you want to talk about turning speed or ergonomics or something, you know, whatever. Casual brain, look at ricochet chance in armor class, and it's identical to the SSH-68, except for the fact that it is a medium ricochet chance, and ricochet chance can save you from a lot of dumb stuff. So that's a problem, and also it's a lot more expensive. So yeah, not at all worth it. If you want a tier 3 helmet to have night vision on, just run a 6B47. Yeah, it has 5 less durability points, but it's got a high ricochet chance and it's tier 3. You're not really worried about that thing getting zeroed, considering stuff's gonna rip through it if it's gonna zero it anyways. So yeah, there are some people, oh, you can put a face shield on it. Why would you put a face shield on this thing? Like, you're right, but the problem is that face shields, the trade, you unlock pretty late in the wipe, and they're expensive as hell on the flea market, if you can even buy them on the flea market anymore. So yeah, you wouldn't waste a face shield that can go on a better helmet on this absolute piece of dog water. There's no point in using this thing, and I don't understand the few people that love this thing. It's just unnecessary and bad. Though it does look pretty cool, I'll give it that. Then we have the tkfast MT. It's an airsoft helmet. It's not really that great. The only reason I'm putting it a slight bit higher is because you can put a tier 5 slap armor plate on this thing, and that's pretty funny to be bouncing rounds from an airsoft helmet with a tiny piece of armor on it. I don't know, I find that pretty funny, and it's like a cheap tier 5 helmet, essentially, considering it'll cost you probably 60k. The only problem with it is you have no back of the head protection, so I mean, if you want to run face first into danger, then that's something you can do, but honestly, it doesn't have that much practical application. It's just a dumb thing you can do, so I feel like E tier is a perfectly fair place to put this thing. And rounding off E tier, we have the... it's a long name. ZSH-1-2M. Yeah, I don't like this helmet. Mostly because of the fact that you have to complete a few quests from Ragman in order to unlock it, the trade for it, which it's not that expensive, but here's the problem. In order to get Ragman, in order to just start getting Ragman, you have to be level 16, I'm pretty sure. By then, you are so close to getting the flea market that you would just buy it directly from the flea market because it's cheaper on the flea market than it is from Ragman. But then again, by that point, everyone's already using ammos that can punch straight through this thing to the point where it's not worth having a heavy helmet that kills your hearing protection, or that kills your hearing, for tier 4 helmet and tier 3 face shield. I mean, super early in the wipe against Timmy's on factory when everyone's just got a shotgun and a pistol, yeah, I can see people wanting to use it for that. Otherwise, it's just like a week into the wipe, it's just not worth it, and the fact that you have to either unlock the flea market or get pretty far with Ragman in order to get this thing reliably is just, it's pretty goofy. I think, like, yeah, first week of the wipe, it'll block whatever players are shooting at you for that period of time, but after that, it basically becomes completely useless. I mean, I guess if you really hate scavs, it might work, but I don't know. I'd rather be able to hear. All right, coming up to D tier, first thing we have is the Cayman, mostly because, I mean, one, it's not tan or black, which is immediate minus points, but the problem that this thing has is it tends to be a lot more expensive than helmets that are pretty damn similar, and what's worse is the attachments you get for it just, they're not that worth. The mandible is pathetic because it's tier 2. The eyeglasses not only look goofy, but they're also tier 2, so they're garbage. And the extra armor on the top, I guess, is kind of nice. I'm just not sure how much it does. I'm not sure if it acts as a layer that the bullet has to go through, and then it has to go through another layer of tier 4 in order to hit your helmet. I'm not really sure what kind of spaghetti code causes the bullets to do things in Tarkov, but honestly, I've never really been saved by that. So yeah, it's just overpriced and underwhelming, so D tier. Then there's the Kibber. This thing sits in a pretty similar boat to the ZSH in E tier, and the only reason it's higher is because of the fact that though it is less protection on the helmet itself, it is available from tier 1 Ragman immediately to purchase with a barter trade with a chainlet, I think, which you can get those pretty easily. So you can get them far more often, and yeah, you can do the exact same thing and just run through factory bullying Timmies who only have pistols and shotguns. So for that, it's pretty good, but once again, a week into the wipe, it immediately becomes irrelevant when everyone starts using ammo that can pierce tier 3 armor, especially on the face. Like, tier 3 chest armor, it makes a bit more sense. Tier 3 face armor and helmet armor, especially if it's a heavy helmet and kills your hearing, it's just not worth it a week into the wipe in my experience. But before that, yeah, it's decently solid to protect you from pistols and shotguns. Then the Ronin. The only reason anyone has ever used this thing is to complete the loadout of the factory samurai. Even then, I still preferred the Killa helmet because it was more imposing and it actually protected you from things. With only having tier 3 protection and just once again killing your hearing, I have things against killing my hearing, by the way, because even though the audio is borked in Tarkov, it's still nice to occasionally be able to hear things. This thing, when the game itself says that the armor protection on this helmet just quote-unquote isn't good enough, it's just not a very good helmet. It's expensive. I think it vendors to Ragman for over 100k, meaning it costs more than 100k to buy this thing. So it's really just not worth it, which sucks because it looks super cool. But and the only reason it's even used for the factory samurai headset loadout is because it's called a Ronin. Other than that, it's literally just complete garbage, and you won't catch anyone playing the game somewhat seriously with this thing on. But if they just want to look cool, then yeah, that's probably why they'd wear it. So D tier. Moving on up to C tier. These things are perfectly average. The TC800. The only reason this thing isn't higher is because it's more expensive than a lot of other options that offer the exact same protection and pretty similar stats. So, I mean, it's a good helmet. Wear it if you have one, but I wouldn't ever buy one, solely because, once again, they are simply more expensive than things that offer the exact same protection. So yeah, C tier. Then we have the lzsh-2DTM or whatever. This thing's kind of cool. I get why some people like this. It's tier 4. It's got a tier 4 face shield as well as a tier 4 helmet. And I'm pretty sure the Aventail thing, it's like a neck guard, is also tier 4. So if you just really, really hate scavs, then I can totally understand why people would use this, because it's not the most expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not the most expensive, and it will protect you against pretty much every scav round in the game, unless you're just sitting there bodying rounds to the face, which is not recommended. So if you're doing raids where you're only planning on running into scavs, then yes, I can totally understand people using this thing. Against players, I just really don't like heavy helmets unless they give you a ton of protection like an Alton or a Rise T does. So great against scavs. Against players, in my personal experience, it's okay, which is why I think this is just the perfect embodiment of mediocre. It does the job decently well, but it's not at all really noteworthy. So C tier feels fair. And finally, we have the tank helmet. How the hell did this thing get so high in the list, you may be asking? The answer is actually quite simple, and it is the fact that people in my Discord absolutely love this helmet, and the people in my Discord kind of terrify me. So for the sake of my own life, because I do not wish for these people to come at me with pitchforks and torches because I dared place this thing even slightly lower than C tier, we're just gonna put it middle of the road so that I don't get murdered. Alright, B tier. The ACHC is in a pretty weird place solely because of the fact that the helmets that offer a bit less protection than it are way cheaper, and the helmets that offer better protection are just a tiny bit more expensive. It's like 10k rubles. So I don't know, it kind of just sits in this weird limbo of, if you have one, definitely rock it. It's a perfectly adequate helmet, but I mean, don't ever go out and buy one, because there are cheaper options that are almost identical, and there are better options that are barely any more expensive, so just spring for one of those. But if you have one of these in your stash, yeah, I'd confidently run that, so I think it's perfectly fine in B tier. And then we have the Fast MT. This is gonna be a slightly controversial one. Yeah, if you're using this, just buy an airframe, you rich bastard. First of all, most of us are never gonna run this thing often, solely because we are kind of broke. But for the people who can afford this thing, an airframe is available pretty much around the same time. It looks a lot better and it's slightly more expensive. Plus, if you want to be technical, you can get the chops as well as the face shield, but it's just a better looking helmet and it's tan. I know you can get a tan one of these, but whatever. So just buy an airframe. As much as I love the Mascara, I have to admit that it's not that great in serious play, solely because of the fact that it's only a tier 4 helmet. You have a tier 6 face shield, but it's only a tier 4 helmet, and more often than not, technically you should probably be getting shot in the helmet, solely because there are bush Wookiees and corner rats and just that sniper who just chilling on the other side of the map ready to shoot you in the brain. So unless you're charging at somebody and they start dumping rounds into your face shield, this thing isn't all that practical. And add on to the fact that you can barely see anything out of it and it completely kills your hearing, it's not that practical. But if you are being an absolute idiot on factory and you have, a giant sword and enough stimulant in your body to actually feel your blood coursing through your veins, then this thing is absolutely fantastic. One, it is absolutely terrifying to see as somebody runs at you with this thing on. And when you whip out that sword and just try stabbing people in the face, it's a grand old time. So, practicality, not so much. Fun, definitely. This thing is a B tier. And we're just gonna fire off these next two because it's kind of boring, since really it just means they're pretty decent helmets for their price. 6B47, literally just an SSH with slightly lower durability, but it can take a night vision mount. So literally just a nighttime SSH 68. It's cheap, it's decent, it has a high ricochet chance, good helmet. Then is the TC 2001. The only reason this thing is this high is because these things are so cheap for some reason. They're most often less than 40k, solely because you find them absolutely everywhere. And their tier 4 protection, they have the same durability as a Ratnik, and I'm pretty sure they have a high ricochet chance. So yes, very solid helmet. Both of those go in B tier. And then the A tier, we have the Bastion. Honestly, I don't really know where to put this thing, but because I don't really use it that often. So I'm gonna put it in A tier because it's a solid helmet starting out, but the fact that you can buy that ultra expensive, absolute Chad tier 6 helmet armor, and the fact that you can still hear out of the damn thing when you're using it, I believe that deserves some merit, and I think it's perfectly fair to put it up in A tier, and along with the fact that a lot of people said it deserves to be an A tier, so sure, A tier. I don't use it that often, but it does have a tier 6 attachment, and you can still hear with the tier 6 helmet, so definite pluses for me. I'll give it the A tier. Next is an Exfil. Yeah, this thing is an A tier, and I'm definitely not saying that because there is an angry Chad to my left pointing an HK at me, forcing me to read this. So yeah, Exfil, perfectly fine helmet. There's a reason a lot of streamers and a lot of people who are taking this game absolutely, completely seriously use this thing. Mostly because they're also rich, but Exfil, perfectly fine, why not, A tier. Next is the TC 2002. Tier 4, 27 durability, high ricochet chance, and they are found literally everywhere. So on the flea market, this thing is less than 36,000 rubles pretty much at all times. And sometimes when you're lucky, it will dip below 30,000 rubles, which is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, these things, I don't know why they have such a high spawn rate, but I'm not complaining. Please don't change it, Nikita. But honestly, this thing, it offers really good protection for being like a few thousand rubles more than a Ratnik. So yeah, this thing is A tier. It's not the greatest helmet in the game, but it's definitely good, and its price is just absolutely It's ridiculously low. And finally, we arrive at S tier. We're just gonna rack through a few of these because they're meta helmets and they're just good, and you can find out a million reasons why they're fantastic on literally anyone else's channel, but we did not come here for intellectual thought, so I'm just gonna blast through these real quick. Airframe. It's tan, it looks cool, it has good protection, it has a face shield, plus the chops, so yeah, good helmet, meta tier, S tier, whatever. Next is the Ulock. This is the only helmet I ever use because I do not put much faith in face shields, as I always seem to get shot through them no matter what bullet is coming through it. So this is the one I always use. It's often anywhere from 55,000 to 68,000 rubles, and yeah, good helmet, S tier. Then the Alton. It's the Alton. It blocks literally everything for some reason, even though in real life the face shield's only really rated for 9x18 Makarov. So in real life its protection is not that great, but in Tarkov for some reason this thing is just as effective as a nuclear bunker. So S tier. And then the Rise T is literally just a cooler looking, Gucci'd up and straight up better Alton. So yeah, S tier. I mean, I don't really use it considering it's more expensive and I don't think the benefits are worth the extra price paid. But if you just want a money sinkhole because it looks really friggin' good, then I can totally understand why somebody would buy this. All reliable, the SSH-68. This thing is 22,000 rubles. It has a high ricochet chance. It's tier 3 armor. You always get it back from insurance. I've had that ricochet chance save me so many times, I can't even remember. There are times that M61 and SMB have bounced off my head, and I don't know how I didn't get a concussion, but you know, I was fine. And if it didn't have a high ricochet chance, it didn't matter what armor class it would have been, that would have straight up murdered me. So SSH-68 is very good, always get it back. It's the best bang for your buck helmet in the game. So yeah, S tier. And finally, we arrive at the greatest helmet in Tarkov. Well, helmet. And that is the pumpkin mask. When you use this thing, you are making a statement to everyone on the map. I do not care about my life, and I do not care about your life. This thing has barely any protection, removes your ability to wear headphones, I'm pretty sure, and is a giant beacon of light coming from the mask that is the perfect indicator of where to shoot. But the best part about it is when you are sprinting through a hallway in dorms, a little Timmy in the corner there is going to be terrified because he just sees this angry jack-o'-lantern light up on the ground sprinting directly towards him, and he understands that he only has a few more seconds to live. So this thing is literally only worn by people who want to screw with other people, and I respect the crap out of that. Absolute S tier, the ultimate Chad helmet. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. S tier. Well, after that, that concludes the helmet tier list. Oh, I forgot to mention there's a new tier 3 helmet that was introduced into the game. D tier, whatever its derivative, it's not really that important. And then the Tagilla welding masks, those are A tier solely because with the Alton no longer being able to be sold on the flea market, those are kind of the off-brand Alton that's still pretty decent and they're easier to get, but they do not protect the back of your head, so that's what drops them from anything higher than A tier or B tier if you want. What A tier or B tier ultimately is what these things fall under, but yeah, that'll conclude the helmet tier list, one that is completely serious and should be held as such. And after this, hopefully I'll be able to upload a gameplay video again next week. That would mean I'd have to play Tarkov, and I have finals coming up.